All right, class. Get out your chains of Mephistopheles flowchart. Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another Legacy video. And today, Steve has asked me to build a deck around chains of Mephistopheles. This is a bit of a complicated card. So, reading the card explains the card, right? So, if a player would draw a card, except for the first one they draw in each one of their draw steps, and this is going to be things like casting cantrips, drawing cards with the One Ring, that player discards a card instead. If they can discard a card this way, they can draw a card. If they don't discard a card this way, they instead mill a card. So this is a way of depowering the cantrips that are the backbone of legacy decks. And I have tried many times in the past to build decks around this card. And when people want me to do that, they usually want me to play cards that look like this. The problem is that Legacy is a relatively fast format, and it is relatively unforgiving. Right now, Tamiyo is a central card to this format, and Tamiyo threatens to come down very, very, very quickly and take over games, either by accumulating clues or by doing the whole brainstorm thing and becoming a planeswalker. And so a lot of the decks that are able to keep up with that speed are very aggressive. Think things like, is it Delver? I guess, is it Tempo? They're not usually playing Delver right now, or aggressive Eldrazi decks. And so we need to be aggressive as well. And I think that means playing as few do-nothing cards as we can. And there are going to be many times where Chains, if not supported by other cards in our deck, is a do-nothing card. I think the best way of optimizing my win percentage with Chains is to play it as a standalone card supported by other things that punish cantrips. So Orcish Bowmasters obviously does that. And a card that I'm a little interested in is my Scornful Striker. This is our Mono Black Eidolon of the Great Revel. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. Now, this one is symmetrical. So some of our Dark Ritual-based lines after this is down, they're going to be a little bit spooky. I'm not going to lie to you. But this is a card that I think fits well. So I am viewing Chains, Bowmasters, and Mai as cards that kind of accomplish the same goal. So we are looking to be an aggro deck, and I'm kind of hedging against Chains being bad in some matchups by playing the full set of Mai and putting the other 3 in the sideboard. So when our opponent isn't doing things like the One Ring or cantrips that are going to naturally play into Chains, we can sub for Mai and a Sheoldred. I wanted a little more life gain than just Goyf in here, just kind of given that I want to do some things that may cause me to lose some life. Hold on a second. Let's put some respect on the name here. Much better. And so with Thoughtseizes and Snuff Outs and Mai's in our deck that are dealing self-damage, I thought a Sheoldred or 2 in the 75 was probably a good idea. I'm maybe skimping on Graveyard Hate a little bit more than I should. We've got Voidwalkers, I've got a couple of Fairy Macabres, but I'm trying to fit a bunch of creatures into the sideboard, so I kind of have this like baby transformational plan for when Chains isn't going to be good. And this comes at a very real cost. I think the ultimate question of this league is, can Chains pull its weight as a standalone card, or is this just better doing something like -4 Chains plus 2 Stalactite Stalkers plus 2 Mai's in the main deck, or maybe you try to get the entire set of Mai's into the main deck at the cost of like moving a Goyf to the sideboard and a Bowmasters to the sideboard or something like that. But we're going to see how this plays out here. We're gunning for the cantrip decks here, and we'll see whether or not we come out on top. And folks, if you need your copies of my Scornful Striker or any other cards from Avatar or any other set for that matter, please consider getting them from my sponsor TOAMagic.com and using my promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And you always get free shipping and great customer service from these folks, so consider supporting their business. Alright, let's battle. You ever keep an opening hand and really hope that your opponent doesn't open up on like fucking basic island? Because that's where I'm at. The hand is reasonable. The Dauthi Voidwalker is not castable. We're pretty far away from casting this, but the game plan of wasteland my opponent 3 times and then drop a Bob sounds totally reasonable. So I'm going to go for the Surveil land, which is greedy, but I think I'm just going to do it. I don't want to get wastelanded back. I think I'm going to go ahead and take that. I can do that before playing my Wasteland and see if my opponent fetches in response, and it might actually give me a window to Wasteland them that I might not get if I go just Wasteland Bob immediately. Alright, getcha. So, I think I'm interested in taking the Up the Beanstalk here. I'll let my opponent force of will some threat that I play at some point this game. I'm just not going to let them establish a source of card advantage. Alright, opponent not fetching immediately. They might want to combine that fetch with Ponder, which is what we're seeing. And if my opponent is playing like a 5-color Beans deck, Isle O Wastelands is going to look pretty good as a strategy. Another Dauthi Voidwalker is not what I want to draw here. I'm fine taking out the Tundra, and I think I just need to use my mana here. So let's take Force of Will and Force of Negation out of their hand. No, we got Leyline of the Guild Pact. That's fine. So Leyline of the Guild Pact indicates that we should be expecting more creatures from my opponent than if they are just a straight up the Beanstalk control deck. They are getting their Xander's Lounge, so they might want Domain. Nope, don't want Domain immediately. Alright, I can play a Goyf here, or I can just nuke one of my opponent's lands. I don't think I'm in a hurry here. I think this game favors me if I just don't let my opponent establish a mana base. I think that was this Misty. Alright. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and take out a Bayou. Some Magic Online lag here. Sorry about that. And I'll throw down a Goyf. Alright, now the Force of Negation is gone. And this is all fine. I am probably better at operating on low resources than my opponent. Well, they are hitting a lot of land drops. As soon as I hit another land, I am in business. Hopefully I don't stumble for too long. My opponent has hit an insane number of land drops after being wastelanded 3 times. As much as I want to wasteland them again, I think I've just got to get Bob in play. Bob getting me another land is a pretty big deal. Alright, no immediate removal spell. That's good for me. Okay, so my opponent just has all lands. Understood. Dark Confidant can start doing Dark Confidant things. I do hit another land drop. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and take my attack, see if I get ambushed by a creature that I need to snuff out or Bowmasters before I make a decision about what to do with the remainder of the turn. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do an end of combat stop here. And go ahead and wasteland my opponent here. Then I'll go ahead and fetch. And just play an aggressive creature. Good enough for a response from my opponent. Another one. And a third. Alright, looks like they just don't want the fetch lands in exile. No removal spell. Opponent has Beans. They snuck that Brainstorm in before I got a Bowmaster down. Unfortunate. Jane's is going to be good in this matchup. Mai also going to be good in this matchup. And another land drop. Dark Confidant does Dark Confidant things. Alright. I've revealed a Bowmaster, which is slightly awkward, but that is what it is. I'll go ahead and crash in for 5 and just intend on playing the Bowmaster that my opponent has already seen. Something like a Terminus theoretically could happen. It wouldn't be crazy for my opponent's deck to have something that they can set up with Brainstorm like that. Alright, not a Surveil land. Alright, there's a Scion of Draco. There's the aforementioned creatures that I was talking about. I will use this as an opportunity to go ahead and play my Bowmaster in your face. And we've got the Beanstalk draw. In your face. Down to 4. So this doesn't have all its cool things as of right now. Snuff out moment. Like a fine snuff out moment before my opponent draws another card. If I do it on their turn, they can't force of negation as well. So Beanstalk trigger, hit ya. And this is just lethal with Douthie. I maybe didn't even need to cast the snuff out and show them that card. GG. So interested in Sheoldred, interested in Sheoldred's Edict as a way to get rid of Scion of Dracos that have Shroud or Hexproof, whichever one it is. I think Bloodchief's Thirst is just going to turn into the Sheoldred's Edict as a starting point. Fatal Push is not exactly fantastic here. You know, not going to hit the Scion of Draco. Hits a bunch of other stuff. Like there's the, whatever, is it a Kavu? The Domain Kavu is something that my opponent could be playing. Endurance, pretty likely. This will miss Solitude if my opponent has that. I feel like I don't need to remove a ton of copies of Endurance. I can just do this. But this leaves me Removal Light. This is, what, 4 removal spells at that point? Which is not overly exciting. Could keep the Bloodchief's Thirst in. I just want to keep all of my threats, though. And the discard can help poke some holes in the early game. That's not a very good-looking Nethergoyf, but I don't know that I'm going to toss back this hand. I've got Wasteland. Wasteland's a very good card in the matchup. The Goyf will grow. The worry here is that my opponent just plays turn 2 Beanstalk, Force of Wills, a Bowmasters or a Voidwalker, and is established. My Goyf is not overly threatening, and my opponent has good mana this game, as well as the ability to stick a fast Scion of Draco. I'm gonna keep that as something that can be a Surveil land later this game, rather than grow this by 1 immediately. I might put a Wasteland in my graveyard next turn anyway. Sure. It's a little funny seeing, like, this tapped for mana, and then my opponent had the chance to shuffle and did not. Okay, they are now choosing to shuffle. And again, what land they get doesn't matter very much right now. Alright, it is an early Scion of Draco, and again, we don't have all that many outs to that. I think I'm going to go ahead and put 1 land into graveyard here. I'm going to actually throw down Douthie Voidwalker here. Mostly because there's some timelines where my opponent could do something that ends up in exile that lets me exile Scion of Draco. This is also something that can punch through the Vigilance here. Under away. Hexproof is rough for me. Fuck. Okay, I'm probably dead. That is going to be 8 lifelink per turn cycle that I'm not very good at punching back through. I think I am comfortable conceding here. My plan of Wasteland you off of this nonsense is just not going to happen right now. Do I want another Duress when I am on the play? Do I want another removal spell or 2 for when my opponent just plays the Scion as a generic I'm going to attack with this card? If it doesn't have all the fun abilities. Good. I might need to. Doesn't feel great because it comes at the cost of a threat, and when my opponent is in the control role, I just want to have as many threats as possible. Yeah, I am in for this. I think I play 2 aggressive cards on turn 1 rather than turn 1 chains. If my gets removed, I want the ability to play a second one on turn 2. Okay, cool. No leyline this game. That's nice for me. Let's get in there. Dark Ritual, then Nethergoyf. I'll be able to fetch on my turn to grow this by another one. I could use something like a Dark Confidant with this hand. Since I went down a card for Dark Ritual and my opponent has drawn a card for being on the draw, I may feel a little squeezed later on. Ooh. I think I'm still just going to cast the Chains. And I'm going to do it pre-combat so that if Chains gets countered, Nethergoyf punches for 1 more. Alright, Chains is in play. I'm hitting for 4 per turn cycle. Soon to be much more. I want to avoid my opponent getting a large creature. That just gums up the board where neither one of these can attack. So there's a Leyline Binding. That'll cost my opponent 2 life. See what that is going after. It's going after I have another so that's good. I have more other Mai as well, which is less good. Nethergoyf only hitting for 2 here, unfortunately. But opponent's already at 11, and a Mai is on board, and another one is coming. Yeah, this is exactly what I did not want to see, right? This card does not do me any good right now. I'm going to go ahead and just play another Nethergoyf. These being legendary is a pretty big downside in situations like this one. My opponent's cantrips are bad. That's the good news. Bad news is I have 3 creatures on board and can't really attack with them until I'm maybe going for a lethal turn. But the cantrip life is rough with both of these in play. Yeah. So there's 2 life. Now my opponent draws with Ponder, but they had 3 cards in hand while that Ponder was on the stack, and they have 3 cards in hand after that Ponder is on the stack. Notice that they discarded that Brainstorm due to my chains. The Death Toucher, right? Sure. Now that does get lifelink, which is very problematic right now. But it's only a 2/4. I don't know if that can actually attack here. I don't think I'm favored to win this game anymore. Alright, opponent is surveilling. This could give me a chance to actually get in for some reasonable damage. Alright, opponent has Bellow as well. I did not see all of these creatures earlier. Alright, so that's worth some damage. Presumably, I'm going to lose the Mai here. It's possible I lose Chains depending on what is in my opponent's hand, but I think it's the Mai at 6 life. It is the Mai. I do have yet another one, but this is a big chance for my opponent to cast some spells in a meaningful way. Ah, shit. I lose if that's the Leyline. It is the Leyline. That's devastating, because this now has lifelink. I think my opponent has stabilized. My deck that is pretty good at removing creatures just does not remove Scion of Draco in particular. Goyf? That good enough? Might just be what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't feel like that. It feels like it's good enough. But I think we gotta try. So there's my number 3. There's a Goyf. I still have things going for me, but my opponent gaining at least 4 life per turn cycle is going to push them ahead. My Nethergoyfs also, coincidentally, aren't great versus exile-based removal like Swords and Leyline. It's keeping creatures out of my graveyard. My opponent's deck lines up very, very well versus what I'm doing. Alright. Am I losing Mai? No, I'm losing the Goyf. The Mai is less threatening if my opponent can gain at least 4 life per turn cycle. Alright, there's Bellow. So now these become creatures and they get all the cool abilities. And that seems like we can concede there without doing the math. GG. Chains did some stuff. Not enough stuff. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you're looking to store your decks online, you're not going to find a better website. It's super organized and easy to use, and I sort everything that I do into a ton of format-specific folders, and you can customize the way that you use Moxfield to your liking. Whether you like text views or visual views of multiple different natures, Moxfield has it all. And it's so easy to use, you might even say that it's a snap. Good news, we have a lot of mana on turn 1. That's auto mulligan. Believe? I think on 6 I will attempt to believe. It's possible I should just keep Fatal Push over Chains. But Steve wants to see Chains, so we shall Chains. And if Chains gets countered or whatever, it grows to Nethergoyf, which is fine. We've got a Ponder. I am prepared to answer a Tamiyo if my opponent is playing a Tamiyo deck. Let's drop a Nethergoyf. I would love to draw a land next turn, as my Nethergoyf is a 0/1 right now. So, you know, opponent's just cantripping. If they are playing spell-based combo, something like Show and Tell, I don't have any sort of Thoughtseize type disruption for them. Okay. Did find the land. Which 2-drop am I playing? I think I'm going to offer this one up to Daze. If an enchantment goes to my graveyard, I'm pretty cool with that. And if it resolves against my opponent's cantrip deck, I'm cool with that as well. Alright, we did offer it up to Daze successfully, meaning that I saved Dark Confidant for later, and since I did this pre-combat, I get to get in for 1 point of damage. In terms of tempo here, I might need to use Fatal Push on creatures like Tameo that my opponent plays out so that I keep Snuff out for something like Murktide Regent. And I'm going to do that, despite the fact that this is a tempo hit for me. Cool. We'll play the Nethergoyf pre-combat for the same days-based reasons as before, and crash in for 2. My basic swamps are doing well. I'm on a low resource game since I mulliganed, and not getting wastelanded off of these spells is a decently big deal. Opponent did have the Brainstorm last turn, but not the ability to Tameo and Brainstorm at the same time. Ooh, no land drop. That is great for me. How do I want to play this? Opponent has enough fuel in Graveyard where Murktide doesn't matter. I think I'm just going to play my most aggressive card here. I think Mai does more damage over time than Douthie. Not resolving. Alright, so opponent does have black over there. I'm bashing for 6 while my opponent is missing land drops. I've got a Snuff out for the creature my opponent can use to stabilize the board. Ponder is fine. Opponent looking for black mana, and preferably a fetch land. Oh, that's a shuffle. Opponent is not getting what they want. So we'll go to Punchies. And I think it is Douthie over Bob here. Douthie is unblockable and does not die to Orcish Bowmasters right now. That is another Force of Will. Opponent's got to have something in hand, right? Now, either one of these Nethergoyfs are lethal as of right now. So it takes something like maybe an Orcish Bowmasters to get my opponent through this turn cycle. And they don't have it. Chains was really, really good bait that game. But we just won that one. My opponent didn't really play Magic. They had counter spells, but nothing to get established on board. GG. Interested in Sheoldred's Edict as a way to answer things like Kaito, and Bloodchief's Thirst can do that as well. And then I'm going to be thinking about my various fair cards. So I have a lot of things I can play. I'm maybe going to just get rid of Thoughtseizes. Is Chains actually good against Tameo? It feels like the answer to that question is no, despite it looking like it should, because Tameo just ends up transforming, and then you can ride the Tameo to victory still. I think I am a straight-up aggro deck in this matchup, and my opponent is going to have cards that look like this. I don't know that I get to take time doing things that don't reduce my opponent's life total to 0. And in case Plague Engineer is not obvious why I'm boarding that one, I'm boarding that for opposing Orcish Bowmasters, because my opponent flashing that in and blocking something like 2 Nethergoyfs at the same time is a really, really big tempo hit. So I think this is just Preacher game, and I can reconsider Chains when I am on the play. This is fine. I have an answer to Tameo immediately, which is a very big deal. It just passes. I'll keep Delta for a minute, and well, maybe I don't, because I want this to be a 2-power thing so it doesn't die to Bowmasters. Yeah, okay. Things my opponent is playing out in the first couple of turns will just die to Fatal Push anyway. 1-2 Goyf. And we'll see if it's just dead now. It is not. Surveil time. Right, Underground Sea and pass turn. Bowmasters is very likely. If my opponent has Bowmasters, Ing and Orc block kills Nethergoyf as of right now. I don't know that I'm super excited about that attack. I might just play Mai and hold the ground versus a Kaito. And removal spells don't kill Kaito right now. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and just play Mai. And if my opponent uses some mana in response, my Nethergoyf attack could become safe. Yeah, no Nethergoyf attack into Bowmasters. Alright, looks like opponent's going to hold it. It's slightly inconvenient for me, given that I have my own Bowmasters that I would like to do things with. We're chilling. Dark Ritual is a very bad draw right now. I both have a ton of mana and don't have things to do with it. I think I am looking at Bowmasters around Daze this turn as the thing that I am doing, rather than trying to surveil and make this attack reasonable. That is a Fatal Push, sure. Now this attacking on future turns is reasonable. And I'm passing here. Kind of playing an awkward Bowmasters game right now. Kind of need to now cast this Bowmaster so I don't lose it. That means that my opponent's Bowmaster gets to ping my Bowmaster. I think I accept that awkwardness. This does end up putting another card type into my graveyard for Nethergoyf purposes. So the Nethergoyf gets better versus, yep, Bowmasters. Well, hopefully I top deck an answer to that. I, in fact, think I will marginally thin the deck to make that better. That was wrong. Now Fatal Push doesn't cleanly answer this all. So I'm going to end up losing a token to that. Say Livy. My is an okay draw. I think I will accept an okay draw in these circumstances. So you come in, you chomp, Fatal Push is now online, and hopefully this resolves. This is a very, very good force of will moment for my opponent. Yeah. So now my is not an exciting draw. Oh, Wasteland's fine. So I'll play my... I have to decide what on earth I am doing about this. If I try to block it with everything and my opponent has a removal spell, it's a disaster for me. I think I am chilling, and I decide whether or not I want to risk everything. Ooh. I feel dead. I lose my and Bowmasters there, and then this gets to crash in, get my opponent a card. Graveyard will be massive. 5 damage. Returning a Murktide Regent, probably. I guess I snuff that out. Alright, well, you don't love to do this, but this does answer this creature. But my opponent is back at 20 life. I snuff out trades with their Murktide Regent, and then they have 2 cards remaining beyond that. I don't want to see a discard spell prior to that Murktide Regent. Hey, a discard spell prior to that Murktide Regent. Fantastic. We tried. So I get 1 redraw here. I'm not even sure if I should play my on this board. Like, the answer to Murktide Regent costs me 2 life. But maybe I don't win without playing my... I'm at 5, which is effectively 3 if I draw an answer to Murktide, which I did not. GG. We get another attempt here. So do I want discard or chains? I think I'm still just trying to be the aggro deck before my opponent finds a Goyf and stabilizes the board. I could go down Dark Confidants because they die to Bowmasters. They're very good when my opponent does not have Bowmasters. Oddly, Dark Confidant might be worse on the play than on the draw, because I play it on 2 and then my opponent gets to Bowmaster it on 2. Maybe I just need the card advantage. This is a weird opening hand. I play 2 0/1s on turn 1. That will be 1, then 2s. I wasteland my opponent's first land drop. I have push for Tamiyo. I think this is a hand that I keep that might just lose. And I think I keep this for the possibility of it being a Surveil land. Goyf. They're going to attempt to be the beatdown here. Alright, opponent is fetching, which hopefully turns on this wasteland. Okay, it will turn on the wasteland. And it is not something that impacts the board. This is very good for me. No shuffle on Ponder. Bowmasters is great. I think I just go ahead and do this, though. Press the advantage that I currently have. If my opponent plays Tamiyo, I can try to push it immediately. 15. Delta, fetch. E for 1. Ah! Alright. Dark Confidant. I think this is a pretty good window to play Dark Confidant, actually. Alright, the dream of this being a Surveil land is dead, though. So if my opponent uses their turn to Bowmaster's Dark Confidant, I get more damage out of Nethergoyfs. If my opponent dazes this Dark Confidant, they don't get to use EE, and they get hit for 6 instead of 4. And the Nethergoyfs, in theory, can end up coming back. Opponent's at 10. EE is a very, very good 2-for-1 for my opponent. Let's see how they navigate this turn. Do have the next land drop, and they are passing. Alright. Goyf and a Dark Ritual. Cool. Lunchies? Send them? Lose both Goyfs. Hit my opponent for 2. I think I do go ahead and do the Dark Ritual here. Play this Goyf around days, like so. That's a Force of Will, that's very good. So the missing piece is now for my opponent to have Bowmasters that removes this Dark Confidant, and if they have that, I think they win this game. Cameo is fine, I have Fatal Push for if my opponent, like, brainstorms immediately. Alright. Hopefully this just evenly trades here. It does. I've got Bowmasters. I think I'm just going to sorcery speed this so my opponent can't brainstorm in response. I don't think they have a daze right now, so let's not give them another draw to do that. If they Bowmasters my Bowmasters, I Bowmasters their Bowmasters, and we give each other middle fingers back and forth for a minute. That is a Murktide Regent. That's real bad for me. That's a 3-turn clock. Well, you didn't have daze a second ago. How about now? Alright. My opponent has me on a 3-turn clock. I have them on a 2-turn clock with Douthie. This one's going to be tight. Every Fatal Push type card is just very, very good. My opponent finds a Goyf. That is insane as well. I'm at 10. Here's Tamiyo. Yeah, that's Fatal Push. Did not want to see that. I don't have enough mana to Nether Goyf or Shoulder it here. I think I'm just sending in for every individual point of damage that I can get here. I think it is unlikely that I win this one. Alright, so opponent did not block in a way where I can kill Tamiyo here. So I will Bowmaster, ping face. That puts my opponent at 5. 2 more damage. They are at 3. So their cantrips are not great right now. I imagine that they just attack with Murktide Regent and hold Tamiyo back, and I need to find 1 more point of damage somewhere else. That is what's happening. So I win if I draw a removal spell. My opponent is Hellbent. That is a removal spell. Woo! We have gotten the GGs from the opponent. That one could not have been tighter. So we're on the board at 1-1. Alright, opening hand has 1 land, which is not going to do with 3 2-drops here. Second hand is fine. I think we're just going to throw the sewers back into the deck. And sometimes we can live the dream of Dark Ritual, kill my opponent's turn 1 threat, play Bob, Bob lives, and play a reasonable game of Magic. Cameo? The dream? The dream? What's Daze or Force of Will? Why would I care? Don't want to be drawing extra lands at this point. So attempt to kill Tamiyo. Attempt Bob. Everything worked! No Bowmasters? As a Christmas treat for Phil, no Bowmasters? Don't fetch, don't fetch. I got nothing. Stone cold nothing. No Fatal Push? I don't believe it. I cannot stress enough how much we just got away with murder. Okay. Well, the game has a sense of humor. That's for sure. 16. A past turn representing Orcish Bowmasters. I don't know whether we just broke even on luck there or what, but everything went right until it didn't. I guess I still have the Dark Confidant, right? Opponent binned a Brainstorm anticipating that I have Orcish Bowmasters, which is, I think, pretty funny. It could also just be that that was a needed card in graveyard for a Murktide Regent. So that was basic Island. I was starting to think that my opponent might be something like Doomsday. Alrighty. Opponent has 5 cards in hand. I effectively have 0 cards in hand, but I still have Dark Confidant. So, no. Absolutely not. Alright, there's a Mai. I don't mind that. Bowmasters is good. I think I am into Mai here. Also the card that I revealed off of Dark Confidant, so I can hide this information. I'm still sort of worried that my opponent is a combo deck. Like, wow. This is starting to look more like it is just a straight-up Dimir control deck. Yes. Alright. Bob, find me an answer to that. And if I can be specific, I'd like Thoughtseize and an answer to that. Swamp. And... okay. Okay. I'll put a land into play for Fatal Push purposes and pass the turn. I believe that I just Bowmaster block with a token here. I'm not getting that opportunity. That costs my opponent some life. I think that I need my creatures. It's just very awkward that finding a Bowmaster off this trigger removes Dark Confidant. See how bad it is. Okay, yeah, alright, so they are combo. And Barrowgoyf is just a dumb magic card, as is Tamiyo. Hey, speaking of, and a land drop. Okay, so opponent does not have a lot of gas. Let's find 2 removal spells. Another Goyf, Dark Ritual. Believe it or not what I'm looking for. Gonna go ahead and play the Nether Goyf, and I might need to multi-block this. I'm gonna leave myself that option, but boy, we are flooding out. I could also chump it. It might not even attack. Opponent might just attack with Tamiyo and hold this back. The ball is in my opponent's court here. They are the ones making decisions, because they can Tamiyo, attack, clue, draw card. All right. I think I'm going for the double block and hoping that I don't get blown out. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like damage is going to go through. So opponent can now transform Tamiyo. Hold on, Mr. Percy wants out of the room. But what we don't want to see is blue draw, transform Tamiyo, remove Bob. I would like to keep this card in play. All that I have going for me, other than the Netherglyph that can come back. Okay, opponent is not flipping Tamiyo. Hey, that's not bad. So let's take a peek to see if there's something there like a Brainstorm. Show and Tell and Thoughtseize. All right, well, I'll take the Show and Tell. I'll attack in for my 2 points of damage. I will attempt to destroy Tamiyo now. Opponent gets to draw. All right, the draw was not exactly Brainstorm, so that's good. So now I can escape this Netherglyph. I'll remove sorcery and creature. Clicked on 2 sorceries. Sorcery, creature, land, instant will do it. Okay. Still in this. I think we fought through 2 Tamiyos and a Goyf now. Opponent gets to stock up. The good news is they don't have very much removal for this Bob, given that they are trying to play this hybrid game. So when my creatures resolve, I should expect them to stay in play a lot of the time. I don't care if you do something like Thoughtseize me, but don't beat a Show and Tell right now. All right, Bob. Here we go. 2 draws. Land? Uh-huh. Greatness at any cost? Greatness at any cost. Last turn. All right, you may have my Dark Ritual. And a stock up afterwards. Sure. Force of Will becomes kind of a scary card here. That to protect this card is a big deal. Another Tamiyo. Okay. And we'll see whether or not my opponent is attacking with this Goyf, or they just want to hold it back. I might hold it back since I have another Goyf in play. Negative. So if I block with 1 Dark Confidant, what's in graveyard? Instant, sorcery, creature, land is not in graveyard. So I can block with 1 Dark Confidant, kill Tamiyo. Hope one of my 2 cards gives me an answer to this. I'm down with that. Good news is, most of the lands are out of our deck. Here we go. Fatal Push. Another land. Alright, whatever. Down to 7. Swamp. Fatal Push you. Hope the last 2 cards aren't Force of Will blue card. Last 2 cards are Force of Will blue card. Thanks, I hate it. How do I win? Get lucky? Attack, kill Tamiyo, take 5, have Bob not kill me. Draw my own Barrowgoyf. I don't think I am going to beat the active Tamiyo, because it represents stock up and show and tell. I'm eating 5 here. 1 to 2. Opponent Mills Emrakul. That's big. This is a slightly smaller creature now. All right. You've been doing a great job at hitting lands, bud. Didn't hit land. GG. Tamiyo is a silly Magic the Gathering card. Okay. I would like more things that answer Goyf and Tamiyo. I can also maybe consider these cards. I don't think I want to do something like Void Mirror for things off of Omniscience. It's cute. I don't know that it's actually good. Snuff Out's weird. It's very, very, very good against Tamiyo and does nothing versus Goyf. I think I just have to get rid of it. Chains is awkward in that it doesn't impact stock up, but my opponent still has the traditional cantrips. It feels like my opponent's show and tell side of the deck is the bad side of their deck here. And the Tamios and Goyfs are the part of the deck that is going to beat me. Is Chains the worst card in my deck? Maybe. I think the Sheoldred is slow here. This doesn't impact the creatures that I think are actually going to beat me. That's only 8 removal spells. That is a little light. I think I am giving up on attacking the combo plan and keeping 1 extra removal spell for Tamiyo. This is fine. It answers a turn 1 Tamiyo and inefficiently answers a Goyf later on. Give myself the Surveil land in the first turn cycle here. Lotus Petal. There's Tamiyo. If this represents Brainstorm, I think I just more or less lose the game on the spot when I cast Bloodchief's Thirst. Surveil. Dark Ritual. That's kind of a big deal. I think I'm going to go ahead and start there. Cast that on Tamiyo. So it is currently my turn. I can do Bowmaster triggers. My triggers are placed on the stack first, then my opponent's Tamiyo transform trigger, so I can't actually kill Tamiyo with Bowmaster here. But I can make a large creature that my opponent has to deal with. So, face, 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 and then my opponent's trigger goes on top of that. So my opponent takes a decent amount of damage. I have an okay creature in play, but now my opponent has Tamiyo. So all it takes here is 1 good removal spell on this orc, and my opponent will be in a dominant position. But last game we saw they did not have very much removal in game 1. I imagine that some amount is coming in the post-sideboard configurations, and we'll just kind of see how much. Land drop. Attempt punchies on Tamiyo. Not enough to kill Tamiyo. If I play this, this is dazable. If I play this, this is Bowmasterable. I think I just want to play the thing that can chonk and hit in at a Tamiyo. It's in play. See what my opponent's got. Alright. Just Surveil land. I'm saying no to Lotus Petal. We don't have a fetch land for Revolt for if my opponent drops their own Goyf. Tamiyo plus. There's the land. Oh, we're gonna lose that side of the deck this time. Alright. Immediate Omniscience. Okay. That's not Emrakul. That's also not Emrakul. We're going face here, I think. That's not Emrakul, but it's real bad. That's going to lead into a Goyf and another Atraxa. Well, no. I guess you take the Atraxa. You just try to fish for Emrakul. Yep. New Atraxa. Alright, none of those cards are Emrakul. My opponent will have Force of Will backing up whatever. Orion revealed. I could kill this Tamiyo that is about to transform into a Planeswalker. I don't know that that matters. I think I'm just going to go face. I don't really see myself winning this one. Everything just needs to go so perfectly. Because I would need to hit Thoughtseize and removal spell that kills Atraxa, which feels unrealistic. Alright. That I cannot beat, and we are dead to that one. Tamiyo. Good Magic the Gathering card. GG. Alright, that is not gonna do it. This is also not very good. I think I just keep it and hope that my Fatal Push gets me out of the early game. I don't know that it is worth going to 5 to try to find a more aggressive hand than this. I think we're keeping this one, hoping that Fatal Push kills a Tamiyo or whatever immediately, or that Surveil land finds me a 2-drop to bridge. Blue deck of some kind? Maybe not. Goodbye, 1 Goyf. And now we'll Surveil. Just looking for any playable 2-drop here. Okay. I'm unhappy about it, but I'll take it. This is already a 4/5. Getting this into play so that it doesn't get eaten by a Thoughtseize or Hymn to Torok or whatever is, I guess, reasonable. Basic Forest. Hierarch is fine. Second Hierarch is a little annoying. I think I'm going to hold this. Yikes. Send in, see if my opponent is in the mood to chump block. They are not. It is a little surprising. Bowmaster? Miss. Ah! Okay. I guess I am just going to Fatal Push one of these. My opponent is already like nearing natural order levels of mana. If I can do anything that keeps him off of that, I should probably do it. Now this requires land plus natural order to just go immediately into something like an Atraxa. I have a ton of creatures too, right? Okay, I guess it's only 20. It's not crazy to whiff there. It's the post-sideboard configurations where I end up taking out the chains that I really end up creature heavy. I'll float a mana, and we're chilling. Grist is devastating. Yep. It's so bad that this trigger missed earlier. Already used my Surveil land as well. Okay. We'll take that. This leaves me with some bodies, and I didn't mill over anything like another Goyf, unfortunately. Og's relevant. And white is pretty respectably sized here. I'll take that as a draw. But my opponent has the beginnings of an engine here. I am fine sacking an Orc army token here to just gain 5 life. Alright, no play from my opponent. Hopefully Dark Confidant starts taking over this game. Another Bowmaster. Sure. Don't get through this 5/5 right now. I'm probably going to wasteland my opponent's Bayou in upkeep. Yeah. Badger Mole Cub has arrived. Sure. Pre-combat, I'm actually going to do this and ping this Bojuka Bog. If my opponent wants to sack it, it means they're not attacking me for 5 this turn, which I'm overall good with. And if they're going to Bojuka Bog me again, I would rather have it happen sooner rather than later. Got a Cradle coming. Sure. Alright, Dark Confidant, don't disappoint me here. We have an opportunity to remove this creature. Here we go. No. This is also a 0/1, or more accurately, probably a 2. I don't know about this attack. I would probably block if I was the opponent. I could get cheeky there and attempt to send in with all of them, bluff a third Bowmaster. Possible I missed 2 points of damage because my opponent values the Gaia's Cradle bonus mana. Shit. I imagine that beats me. Verdant Green Sun White. That was not actually all that many cards. This card is doing so little right now. Actually, maybe Bowmasters is worse. My opponent doesn't draw extra cards. Let's do that way. This one has the potential to at least get bigger. Alright. Need lots of removal here, Bob. I imagine this does not kill White of the Reliquary here. It could, but I'm expecting Dryad Arbor, Fetch, and then, totally blanking on the name, Talon Gates. Alright, and that does indeed happen. I think I'm willing to call it there. Both of these creatures are vigilant. I'm not going to be able to crack back. My opponent has a ton of great lines available to them. So they can play white off these 2 mana sources, and then Green Sun for Badger Mole Cub on Talon Gates to keep Talon Gates available. So, starting point, bam, done. Next up, I would like additional removal. And then I have 4 more creatures that I can think about playing. Duress is technically playable, but is not exciting. I don't hate Shouldered and Mai as things that can help burn my opponent out once they stabilize the board. But it's kind of hard for me to see what should come out in their place. I think despite the fact that this matchup largely plays to the board, I think I still need to play Thoughtseize in respect of natural order. I don't know that I get these cards. Absolutely not. I think I need a threat backing up my removal. I think we need to play a tempo game. Whereas this is totally fine. I probably get rid of one of my 2 mana cards here. I think I will get rid of Bowmaster. Keep my other removal spells. I think my goal is to hope that I can play Dark Confidant immediately. Maybe if I attack these cards aggressively, I can just play Dark Confidant, let my opponent play this, and then kill it the following turn. I'm going to take the more flexible Green Sun here. I imagine this is just going to be one of the 2 Hierarchs, and I'm correct. I don't think this is going to end up being a Surveil land, but there are timelines where I need Revolt for Fatal Push, so let's play out like this. We don't want to see like a naturally drawn Grist or something that can just remove this turn. Badger Mole Cub is fine, but it does kind of let my opponent catapult ahead on mana. Then they get to play white this turn as well. Here we go. Douthie is okay. Because I played this last turn, I can't Douthie and Fatal Push, which is a little annoying. So goodbye white. And I think I just use my mana here. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. I imagine that is just the forest. Correct. Could have gone for that in my opponent's upkeep, but if there's a timeline where they sacrifice the Badger Mole Cub, I miss 2 points of damage for doing that. Misty? Now I don't know anything about my opponent's hand. Vaulted is going to do some serious work on my life total. Gotta find more removal. This is where, like, the Plague Engineer can be pretty good. Blood Chief's Thirst. Sure. Fetch. Swamp. Getting rid of Badger Mole Cub. Stops 2 mana production. So I guess I'll do that. I was supposed to play Douthie first. That's a mistake. Just objective mistake on my end. I'm going to take out Lair of the Hydra. Send in for my 2. Looks like we're going to sinkhole. Oh, no, not sinkholing. Bowmasters? Bowmasters is very, very, very good here. Oh, it's Endurance instead. That's tough. So now my opponent gets to crack me for 5. I might just be terminally behind now. Going back a couple of turns, Once Upon a Time is a reason to not take out the land in the upkeep. Yep, and there is an example of why you want to play the Douthie first here. Is one bigger than it needs to be. Although my opponent is... well. I could Douthie Once Upon a Time, attempt to find a Goyf. Get my Goyf phase out and effectively die anyway. I think my opponent's got it from here. My removal did not keep up with their creature output. GG. Okay, what does this do? So 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana, dumps my entire hand on turn 1. Okay. Really need Dark Confidant after this. Alright. Chain's probably not good against Ancient Tomb. Second Chain's very bad versus Ancient Tomb. Alright. Thought sees you. What if it's Show and Tell? Nope, it is Eldrazi. So I'm going to take Glaring Fleshraker here. I don't even think I'm going to play Chains immediately at the cost of a Dark Ritual. I think I'm just going to throw down Douthie. Slightly surprised my opponent kept their hand. It doesn't really look like it does anything. Alright, they're not even going to play out the Wastegate Battle Mage. Punchies. I'll play a Chains, I guess. Technically can do things versus Kozilek's Command. One ring if my opponent's build has it. Some of them don't. Thought Not Seer. I ain't got shit over here. You can have it. And Cavern comes down. Hey, Dark Confidant. I'm going to assume that playing Dark Confidant is a net positive on this game. If nothing else, I draw a card or 2 off of it and then block this. My opponent has 2 Ancient Tombs in play while I have Douthie Voidwalker. But they also have some scary top decks. I'm at 14 already. Wastes, hits, play. Which one are you bouncing? Alright, they're bouncing the Voidwalker. Alright, let's find a removal spell for Thought Not Seer and we're fine. That kind of counts. Do I try to push 2 damage here? I maybe just sit back. I maybe just win the game if I have 2 of these. I don't know that I need to try to push 2 points of damage here at the potential of being cracked back for a larger amount. Courtyard comes down. The 7 mana stuff is online. Yeah, that's a scary card. So what's your play here? No attack. Alright. Snuff Out is cool. Yeah, I think I'm good with attacking here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good with that trade. Death Touch is good. And then I just play another one of these. I have Snuff Out for Thought Not Seer. That's fine. I have Snuff Out for that. And opponent's last card was just a land. I'd still like to draw more removal with Bob here. Okay, I do. Kind of. I think I go ahead and push this. It's the thing that I can push immediately. Okay, that's just good enough for my opponent. Alright, cool. Opponent had a lot of land in the opening hand. And I think not enough spells. GG. We're immediately gonna cut all of the chains. Has very, very, very little text in this matchup, and Wastegate Battle Mage also coincidentally can take it out of play. Removal spells come in, and beyond that, we'll start thinking about cards that look like this. And technically, Void Mirror can do some stuff, but a bunch of my opponent's lands can produce colored mana, so I don't know that we're excited about that. I could go down on some 1-drops in anticipation of Chalice. I could go down Mai. Mai is not overly exciting. The first strike is relevant versus some creatures, but because Mai is legendary, I can't stack up first strike. Plague Engineer for Scions is fine. Sheoldred, Walls, Thought-Knot Seer. I could go away from Thoughtseize. It negatively impacts my life total, and sometimes my opponent chalices me immediately. Also a very bad top deck. It is a 1-mana way to deal with a 4 or 5-drop before it hits play. I think I'm going to get rid of the Mize. I think I'm the person who casts more non-creature spells on average. I'll keep the efficient Thoughtseizes. 1 land is not great. I have 2 removal spells. I think I'm just going to ship this one. I think I want solid mana to get to this card as frequently as possible. Probably keep this one and get rid of Bowmaster. Alright, so maybe not thinking about Surveil Land too heavily here. Alice? Alice. That's fine. I will just throw down a basic and pass. I may just become the beatdown. I may just play Douthie into Douthie if my opponent does not have a soul land. Alright, they did have the soul land. Alright, so hopefully no Lotus Petal follow-up immediately. Nice. That means that I can cleanly edict this. Yeah. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. And I want to hit land drop 3 for this, but I still have reasonable plays if I miss. Alright, we are at Reality Smasher, levels of mana. Alright. Ooh, no immediate play. Very nice. That does not do what I want it to do here, so unfortunately, this is Douthie. Thought-Knot Seer gets to take my Goyf, which is real bad for me. And I'm gonna get pinged by Glaring Fleshraker for 2 in combat as well. Down to 15. Well, I've got another one, but, you know, I am not winning this race. My opponent has 6 onboard power plus more, depending on how many spells they can cast. Oh, they've got Grim Monoliths as well. So there's some chance that I just die on my opponent's next turn. Hopefully I draw a land for this. Ah, hit you for 6 at 11. All right, Cavern is not a spell. We are at Eye of Ugin tutor levels of mana. Or an Eldrazi Linebreaker. Yeah, okay. That'll do nicely. So is there anything I want to change now? On the play, I could Duress or Chalice. I have a lot of things that are not 1-drops. I think I just kind of live with the fact that that can happen. I am really leaning on these 4 Goyfs to win this matchup, I think. Well, you remember how I said we're very, very heavily leaning on something? Well, we have it on turn 1. So let's see what my opponent can do about that. It's not very big, but it is going to be backed by a removal spell. And while my opponent could have a couple of cards like Dismember that could answer it this turn, it's pretty unlikely that my opponent answers this immediately. Alice is totally fine given where this hand is at. We'll go to Punchies, hit for 2, hopefully scale this up. Am I leaving the possibility of Surveil Land here? Nah, I think I'm pretty much always going to cast a Sheoldred's Edict in this turn cycle. I'll save this later for Fatal Push type reasons, although maybe that's not actually true. Alright, I am not actually using a Sheoldred's Edict immediately. Thoughtseize is not a great draw here. And in with the Goyf. Hit. Yes. Ooh. I'll absolutely take another friend. Oh, fetch. Swamp. Play another one. And hope we're not about to walk into something crazy like end of turn, Kozilek's Command into All Is Dust or something. Opponent has a lot of mana. They could have a big Glaring Fleshraker turn. See how crazy it gets. 21. Blue mana. Probably going to see a bounce on one of them. Yes. I'll take some chip damage from the triggers. My opponent bounces one of those out of play. And I now can't edict the Glaring Fleshraker out of play. which is a little annoying. Am I just hoping to cast 2 copies of Shoulder's Edict next turn? Probably. The Glaring Fleshraker buys so much time here, it's ridiculous. And I also don't gain the life here. Opponent just sacrifices. I think I've just got to get these back in play. I don't want to lose them to a Thought-Knots here. It is very, very realistic that I could lose from this position where my opponent had nothing going for a couple of turns and I had 2 Goyfs in play. Glaring Fleshraker can get crazy. Don't care about Wasteland. Mana is probably not a bottleneck this game for my opponent. Cards are. We are up to 7 drop territory. What are our modes here? Card and get rid of 1 Goyf. Totally reasonable. Opponent keeps 2 cards on top there. I'll get cracked for 4. My opponent has some spawns back. Is there a way I can make this lethal this turn? I have instant, land, creature, artifact, kindred. No, I need 1 more mana to do that, because I can put sorcery into graveyard, but that doesn't do me any good. I can get lethal over 2 turns by make you sack a token, hit for 5, Bowmaster face. That's probably worse than removing the Glaring Fleshraker. Alright, sacrifice a non-token creature. Actually, maybe that's not too true with double Ancient Tomb in play. I could have thought about that a little more. Sacrifice a non-token creature. Send in. Yeah, like especially with Shouldered as a follow-up. Maybe it was supposed to be token, crack for 5. I guess Eldrazi Temple is already a soul land. That's still just 3 mana. Yeah, I could have analyzed that spot more. New Glaring Fleshraker. Opponent can wasteland my wasteland. Nope. 6 mana. I win if they command, right? They would need to follow it up with the Thought-Knots here. Because at 2 life, Shouldered just kills them. Okay, yep. So now their last card needs to be Thought-Knots here to take this Shouldered, or they die. Insane. So I'm at 7 when all those pings resolve. I need to find 1 more point of damage. I think I am wastelanding an Eldrazi Temple. And I think I'm just going to put this into play immediately. I don't want my opponent to be able to cast something with this on the stack. I think I will take the block here. Land drop. Opponent passes. I miss my draw. See if I take 4 or 6 here. 4. And I will just take that. Opponent has another land. On Bowmaster. Dark Confidant. That's a blocker for this. I guess I could block with Bowmasters instead. And use Dark Confidant to get more looks at a removal spell. Kills me sometimes. But more looks at another Bowmasters feels like a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright. I'm at 2. A bunch of my Dark Confidant reveals kill me. Snuff out. So if I leave Orcish Bowmasters in play, Snuff out doesn't get through, and then I probably die the following turn anyway. GG. Alright, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. I think it's such an uphill battle to try to put Chains of Mephistopheles in a legacy deck in 2025, soon to be 2026. I don't think it is worth building fully around the card with things like Anvil. I've done that plenty of times. It's not good. And even just trying to play it in the main deck is costly. I think this is largely relegated to singleton sideboards, singleton slots in sideboards for mono black decks. I don't think this is a powerful legacy card anymore. I think it is just too easy to win games of Magics with permanence now. Like Barrowgoyf and Tamiyo don't really care about chains. Tamiyo is such a busted Magic card that if you shut off the clue side of it, it doesn't matter. The Planeswalker side is still great. And as we saw, people do just have main deck answers to enchantments. Things like Leyline Bindings and Wastegate Battle Mages exist that take this out of play. So if you have to build a deck that has 4x chains in it, this is a reasonable starting point. But I think this deck is just way better if you have 4 more aggressive threats in the place where chains are. And then that opens up 4 sideboard slots. And I think you end up with a more well-rounded deck overall. Chains is 2 mana for something that is not winning the game, and I don't know that you get to do that in Legacy right now, unfortunately. But Steve, we gave it a shot. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!